Hello, I'm JP from Singapore. When I first retired, I thought early retirement was all about freedom. And yes, it is. But we also hear so many claims about early retirement, that life gets easier, that health declines, that planning stops once you hit your number. After living through 8 months of it myself, I've realized that many of these popular beliefs simply don't match reality. Let me now share the truth about early retirement by breaking down 8 myths people still believe and what really happens after FIRE. Before we even get into the emotional side of FIRE, let's start with something practical. The one thing everyone thinks will automatically change once you stop working: your expenses. Myth number 1. Your expenses will automatically drop after retirement. As shared in my first decumulation video of my first 6 months into FIRE, my expenses dropped by around 26%, not because I cut back, but because life simplified. No more commuting, fewer external meals, less impulse buying, less shopping for clothes and shoes. But this is not the same for everyone. Travel, hobbies, and healthcare can easily make expenses rise. Some people call this early stage of retirement the go-go years, usually the first 5 to 10 years, when retirees are healthy, energetic, and financially stable. This is when many focus on travel and active pursuits, often with higher spending. In my case, since my husband is still working, I'm not in that full travel mode yet. So, here's the first truth. Your expenses don't automatically drop. They become more intentional. The key is to understand your unique spending patterns and design your lifestyle accordingly. I'll be sharing my full 2025 expense comparison after completing my first year of FIRE, so stay tuned for that video. After adjusting to new spending patterns, another question comes up quite often. But isn't retirement supposed to start at 62 or 65? Let's talk about that next. Myth number 2. You must wait until retirement age to retire. We have been conditioned to believe retirement starts at 62 or 65. Some even point out that the government encourages citizens to work longer. And if you didn't know, Singapore's official retirement age will rise to 64 by 1st July 2026. But why do you think we can only retire when the government says we can? Financial independence isn't about age, it's about optionality. When I began my FIRE journey at 47, I didn't suddenly stop being capable of work. What changed was that I finally had a choice to decide how to use my time. If you plan well and keep your lifestyle costs sustainable, you don't need anyone's permission to live differently. You can still choose to work, but now it's because you want to, and not because you have to. If you wait until 62 or 65, you have already spent roughly 3/4 of your life working, and your healthiest years may be behind you. How confident are you that you still have another quarter of your life in good health to enjoy the fruits of 4 decades of labor? Oh, and before I forget, if you haven't opened your Supplementary Retirement Scheme SRS account yet, it's a good idea to do so and make your first contribution before July next year. That timing matters because your tax-free withdrawal age is tied to the official retirement age when you first contribute. You can check out my other video on SRS investing to learn more. So, here's the second truth. Early retirement isn't about quitting, it's about regaining choice. With thoughtful planning, you can design freedom earlier and to start living while you still have your health, curiosity, and energy. Once you realize retirement doesn't have to wait until your 60s, the next challenge isn't financial, it's emotional. What happens when the job titles and KPIs disappear? That's where the next myth comes in. Myth number 3. You will lose your identity and purpose. For decades, many of us have tied our self-worth to job titles, KPIs, and being productive. We are used to the rhythm and validation that come with work. When that disappears, it can feel disorienting and uncomfortable. I've experienced that myself. Neighbors asking, "Working from home today?" Or friends saying, "Good to take a break before you go back." But that same void also creates space to rebuild meaning on your own terms. Purpose doesn't end when work stops. It just shifts. For me, Ikigai Living SG became that new structure, a place to share, create, and stay engaged without the stress of corporate life. I discovered purpose in sharing and reflecting, not through a corporate title, but through contribution. So, here's the third truth. You don't lose identity after fire. You rediscover it, and this time, it is anchored to your values rather than your job. You don't stop contributing after retirement. You just learn to contribute differently. Finding purpose again is a big part of early retirement, but it is not the only part. Because after the excitement of achieving financial independence, something else hits you. Planning doesn't actually stop. It just changes shape. This brings me to myth number 4. Planning ends after you hit FI or start FIRE. After years of saving and investing, many people see financial independence as the finish line. Yes, I did it. I achieved my goal. I used to think like that too. But FIRE isn't the end of planning. It is the start of life design. Before FIRE, the focus is on accumulation and building wealth. After FIRE, it shifts to decumulation, managing drawdowns, cash flow, and sequence of returns risk. I now plan across phases and different retirement pillars. Liquidity asset strategy to manage and fund my FIRE lifestyle now from age 47. Endowment payouts from age 50. Assess CPF above the full retirement sum that can be withdrawn for liquidity at age 55. SRS drawdowns beginning from age 62. And finally, CPF life payouts starting from age 65 for lifetime income. At the same time, I plan for more than just money. I now focus on designing my days, nurturing health, and living intentionally. The things that used to take a back seat during corporate life. And this brings us to the fourth truth. The spreadsheets don't disappear. They just evolve to track time, health, and meaning instead of paychecks. Even with all the planning, spreadsheets, and financial milestones, the biggest risk after FIRE isn't running out of money. It is running out of purpose and health. And that's where myth 5 comes in. Retirement leads to depression or poor health. We often hear stories of retirees who slow down, fall sick, or feel lost soon after leaving work. There is some truth in that. But it is not because retirement itself is harmful. It is how people retire that matters. When work ends, there are 3 big shifts that can affect well-being. The first is loss of purpose and structure. Without routine or direction, days can feel empty. It is important to build new rhythm again, and that can include exercise, hobbies, creative projects, volunteering, or Ikigai-driven goals that keeps both the mind and body active. The next shift is shrinking social circles. Colleagues disappear from daily life, and isolation can quietly grow. It is important to stay connected through communities, learning groups, or shared activities to protect mental health. Finally, the next shift is financial and health anxiety. worrying about money or medical issues can erode peace of mind. It is important to do regular reviews, including cash flow checks, insurance coverage, health screenings, to replace fear with confidence. And when you are forced to stop through retrenchment or illness, it removes choice and control. That shock alone can trigger emotional strain. Those who plan early and choose their own timing adapt far better. So, this is another important reminder to design your runway while you still can, and don't wait to be pushed off the cliff later. Interestingly, many people who have been consistent savers their entire lives actually struggle with the opposite problem. They find it hard to spend their money. In fact, there's even a book called The Art of Spending Money, which talks about this very issue. The author argues that financial well-being comes from spending money in a way that aligns with your values and creates happiness. Decades of saving discipline sometimes make it difficult for some of the consistent savers to switch from accumulation to enjoyment. Even when they have more than enough, the fear of running out of money never quite leaves them. And that constant worry can quietly affect both emotional and physical health. Now, after spending decades mastering the art of saving, they will have to now learn the art of living. And remember, Myth 5 isn't here to make you fear retirement. This day will come for all of us, whether earlier or later. The key is to prepare ahead, mentally, socially, and financially. In my case, since retiring, I've actually become healthier with daily workouts, Pilates, better sleep, and balanced meals. The key isn't stopping, it is redirecting. So, here is the fifth truth. Retirement itself doesn't harm your health. Losing purpose and connection does. When you retire to something instead of from something, health and happiness don't fade. They flourish instead. And retirement is really a stress test for how well we have built meaning, habits, and relationships beyond our job. After talking about health and well-being, another question I often get is, so, what do you actually do all day now that you are retired? It is a fair question. Because FIRE doesn't mean you stop doing things. It just means you finally have the freedom to decide what to do and how to spend your time. And that's where the next myth number 6 comes in. That everyone who retires early eventually goes back to work. One of the most common things I hear is, don't worry, you'll be back working again in a year. And honestly, some people do return to work. But often, it's not because they failed at retirement. It's because they finally have the option to choose the kind of work that fits their values, interests, and energy. FIRE doesn't mean doing nothing or sitting at home all day, nor sitting at the coffee shop drinking coffee and reading papers all day. You still spend time doing meaningful things. The difference is, you now have the freedom to choose what those things are. For some, that might be hobbies, travel, or creative projects. For others, it might include consulting, advisory work, or even running a YouTube channel like myself. The fact that you get paid for these doesn't mean you are not FIRE. It simply means you are doing something that aligns with your interests, and not because you need the money to survive. So here is the sixth truth. Many early retirees do go back to work, but it is for work that feels meaningful, not mandatory. FIRE is also not about refusing paid work. It is about being free from the need to work. The key difference is freedom of choice. As for myself, FIRE has always been about time freedom. Going back to a 9-to-5 job, even by choice, would mean giving up the autonomy I've worked so hard to build. And once you have experienced true time independence, it is hard to imagine trading that back for structure. These days, I spend my time creating videos, analyzing investments, taking care of my health, spending time with loved ones, and learning new skills, all on my own terms, at my own pace. My YouTube channel has become my pet project, my new baby. It is a personal space where I share, reflect, and hopefully inspire others to design their own version of freedom. That gives me a real sense of purpose and meaning. And if you have found my sharing so far helpful, do give this video a like and drop a comment below. I would love to hear your thoughts. And moving forward, if I ever return to corporate life, it will be from a position of strength, not necessity. Even with time freedom, retirement isn't about sitting still. Once the noise of corporate life fades, many of us start asking, so what's next? That's where another myth often appears, that retirement marks the end of growth and learning. But in fact, it can be the start of an entirely new phase of discovery. People often think retirement means slowing down or switching off, that learning and personal development stop once you leave the office. But I've found the opposite to be true. Growth simply changes form. I now have time to explore new skills, from fitness routines to content creation, video editing, and digital marketing. I also read more, reflect more, and learn things I never had space for in corporate life. Recently, I signed up for a 1-year online subscription with Udemy Business using my $500 Skills Futures credits. There are over 26,000 courses available for self-learning at my own pace. And the best part is, I can choose anything I want to learn without having to justify whether it's career relevant or not. If you haven't used your $500 Skills Futures credits, do make use of them before they expire on 31st December next month. In summary, growth during work is about climbing a ladder and advancing in your career. Growth after fire is, on the other hand, about deepening roots to become more self-aware, curious, and balanced. And this brings us to truth number 7. Retirement doesn't end growth, it frees it. When time is your own, you finally grow in the directions that matter most to you. And as you grow and evolve, your view of success changes as well. Some people may look at early retirement and think it's selfish, that you have escaped while everyone else is still grinding. But the truth is, fire isn't about escaping. It is about engaging with life more intentionally. Let's take a closer look. To me, early retirement is an act of responsibility to design a life where you are present for family, able to care for your health, and able to give back from a place of peace. I now spend more time with loved ones, share what I've learned through the channel, and volunteer my time in ways that align with my values. Fire isn't about withdrawing from the world. It's about re-engaging with it more intentionally. In fact, early retirement can even be a social good. It opens opportunities for younger talent and also helps reduce burnout throughout the system. And finally, coming to truth number 8, which is my last one for this video. Early retirement isn't selfish. It is self-aware. When you live from balance and freedom rather than burnout, you have more to give: time, wisdom, and presence. These myths made me fear retirement long before I actually reached it. Looking back, I've realized they are not entirely wrong. Many hold a grain of truth. depending on how you approach retirement. But living through them taught me that FIRE isn't a finish line. It's a transition into a new chapter, one that you get to design with intention. Early retirement isn't about stopping work or chasing perfection. It's about regaining time, creating balance, and living with purpose every day. In the end, true success in retirement isn't about how early you retire. It's about how meaningfully you live after. If you have achieved financial independence, retired early, or are still working by choice, I would love to hear your story. I'm compiling real stories from the FIRE community to show the many pathways to financial independence and the different ways people build purpose after retiring. You can share your experience in the comments, or if you prefer something more private, please email me at sgikigailiving@gmail.com. All stories will remain anonymous. Together, we can show that early retirement isn't about escaping work. It is about reimagining life itself. If you found this video meaningful, please like, subscribe, and join me on this journey as we design our lives, not just our portfolios. Till then, have a great Ikigai day.